Hello fellow audio nerds, I'm Steph, and this is Major Hi-Fi. This week, the newest from Audio-Technica landed on my review desk. It's a brand new take on the M50X. This one is the M50xBT. It's going to be a great option for those of you looking for the M50X headphone and the convenience of a wireless headphone. So the big question I had was, does it really sound like the M50X, and how well does it function? Well, let's go back in time. I'll share with you my first impressions, and then I will meet you right back here for my overall thoughts. Alright, here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to my place. So today I've got with me the Audio-Technica M50xBT. So let's see what is inside the box. Alright, so as you will see here, we've got a few accessories. First of all, we've got a cable here for audio with a 3.5mm connector. This charging cable, it is micro USB. This nice drawstring pouch, some documentation, and then obviously the headphones themselves. So overall, the M50xBT essentially looks identical to the normal M50X. You'll notice that the headband here is really kind of thick, very durable. It stretches out like this. We've got a metal extender here, but otherwise it's made of plastic. There's a nice amount of padding underneath here, enough to sort of pad the head. It's covered in this sort of pleather material. And then this headband attaches to these plastic yokes, and really these ear cups then can totally move around in a bunch of different directions. It's also foldable for those of you on the go, and really that's what this headphone is for. It's a Bluetooth headphone, so it is made for being on the go. You'll also see here that the ear cups, just like the normal M50X, are sort of that sort of size. It is going to fit over your entire ear here, and yeah, it does. There's a solid amount of clamping force here, and that really helps block out a lot of extra noise around you. That said, the clamping force is not like painful or uncomfortable or anything. It just feels really solid, and yeah, I can't really hear anything when I put these on. The biggest difference between the M50X and the M50xBT here is this, that the left ear cup here has a bunch of controls. It's got a port for the audio cable, it's got the port for the micro USB charging cable, this Bluetooth on-off button, and then, playback controls. Now, the ear pads of these are really soft, really just like the M50X Classic. They're made of foam, soft foam here, and coated in this sort of pleather material. They fit totally around the ears, and actually I think the M50X is a great headphone for those with larger ears. I have sort of smaller ears, but the amount of space here for the actual ear to sit in there is a really nice amount, I think. Now, obviously, another huge difference between the M50xBT and the M50X is that the M50X has to be used wired, whereas the BT can be used via Bluetooth. Now, that said, it does come with one audio cable here. This is a 1.2 meter cable, feels super durable. First of all, the connectors are really well made, as you might expect, but also it's just a very manageable cable. There's a little microphone here for talking on the phone, so it kind of makes this, it's a very simple cable. It's not going to be great for studio use if you need like a longer run. In that case, the M50X would be better, but for just a portable cable, I think it's a really good one. The M50xBT has a super impressive battery life. It is 40 hours. It takes 7 hours to charge completely, so it's the type of thing that you'll want to set overnight if you do end up getting this type of headphone. That said, the Bluetooth is Bluetooth 5.0, and it connects via codecs AAC and also works via aptX for those of you who want the higher resolution option. Now, I'm quite familiar with the classic M50X, but I am going to listen side by side between the BT and the 50X to give you a better idea of how they compare on a more specific level. For now, I just want to listen to these with my phone over Bluetooth, see how it sounds, and I'll report to you here with my first impressions. But stay tuned for the rest of the review after this first impressions listen, because I will be going into more detail about how exactly this compares with the M50X classic. So yeah, let's take a listen here and turn it on. Yeah, the lows on these are really nice, and I definitely am getting a classic M50X sound from it for sure. Like, the tonality feels very M50X-like. In terms of the low frequencies, I'm listening to the song Fever by Ray Charles featuring Natalie Cole. I love this song. And the kick drum, the upright bass, the toms all sound super full. The low end feels like it definitely has a bit of a boost there. There's definitely some thickness, especially in the upper lows, if that makes sense. And that bump sort of brings the upright bass a little bit forward in the mix, sort of over the kick drum a little bit. But anywho, it feels super punchy. Sounds good. Alright, so I was just listening to the song Thanks for Nothing by Middle Brother, and I could definitely get the sense that these headphones have a bit of a high mid boost, just like the M50X. The vocal sits forward in the mix. There's the snare drum sort of brush pattern that really I can hear like the texture of those brushes hitting the snare drum really nicely. And then I can also hear the sort of strings of the acoustic guitar a little bit more than normal. The bass guitar sounded big and round and was a bit louder than normal, indicating sort of a boost in the low mids as well. So there's the low end boost and then the low mids too. Alright, so yeah, I was just listening to the song I'm Callin' by Tennis. Elena Moore's voice definitely sounds present. There's definitely sort of an emphasis, I think, in the highs somewhere. The hi-hat comes through with extra energy than normal. Does feel very M50X-y, so in terms of just having that high-end boost in general. And the tonality is pretty similar as well, at least from my audible memory. Alright, yeah, I was just listening to the song Desperado by Rihanna, and something I'm really noticing is there's great contrast between sort of the centered low bass synth and then the wide synths that come in during the chorus, sort of the distorted synths. There's definitely nice separation there between those two things, giving us a nice sense of width. And additionally, I am getting a sense of height for sure. Rihanna's voice is pretty bright, and so having that sort of like sit higher in the vertical domain is quite obvious with these headphones. And then that vocal really contrasts quite nicely with the other background vocals, which are a little bit darker sounding, and they sit a little bit lower in the vertical domain. Anywho, I'm looking forward to listening to these more, listening directly next to the M50X, and also testing it with the cable next to the M50X, because, I don't know, maybe it'll sort of change the sound a little bit. We will see. Anywho, I will see you back at the Major Hi-Fi office for my overall thoughts. Alright, here we go. Overall, the low frequencies of the M50xBT have a nearly identical sort of tonality as the M50X. The biggest difference is that the low frequencies here are a little bit thicker. They're a little bit broader and a little bit more bloated. So this will come across as having just sort of like a bigger presence in the lows, but also leaves a little bit less space. There's less spaciousness in the lows. Overall, the mid-range of the M50xBT, like the M50X, leans toward the high mids. As a result, things like vocals, drum transients, horns, anything with a lot of upper mid-range energy sort of tends to sit a bit forward, have extra clarity there. The biggest difference, I think, between the M50xBT and the M50X in the mid-range is going to be in the low mids. Now, they both have a little bit of an emphasis there, but the M50xBT feels like that emphasis is a little bit lower, so it's a little bit closer to the low frequencies, and I think that sort of contributes to that sense of thickness, but also a little bit of that sense of congestion that you get down there in comparison to the M50X. Both the M50X and the M50xBT have some emphasis in the upper treble, and they do feel a little bit different though, because the areas of the upper treble where they're emphasized is slightly different. The M50X's emphasis feels like it's slightly higher in the frequency spectrum, and as a result, the M50X feels a little bit more airy than the BT. The BT, on the other hand, whose emphasis is a little bit lower in the upper treble region, tends to make high-frequency, rich instruments like cymbals, for example, sound a little bit more textured and a little bit louder in the mix, actually. Another difference between the M50X and the BT is that the M50X seems to have a little bit of a boost in the lower treble as well, and this sort of gives a little bit of extra presence and articulation to vocals. Now, the BT doesn't have that boost, or it doesn't seem to anyway, so vocals sit a little bit quieter in the mix, slightly, and also just has a little bit more spaciousness in that region of the frequency spectrum. Both the M50X and the M50xBT both have a good sense of width. They both have a good sense of height. Because of the low frequency and high frequency sort of emphasis with both of them, you really get a sense of directionality in the vertical domain. The biggest difference is the sense of depth, which you lose a little bit of depth with the BT, but it's funny when you listen wired with these versus the M50X, that sense of depth really comes back a lot. So I think it's really just from the Bluetooth. I guess that's the price of convenience, that you'll lose a little bit of the depth of the soundstage. Overall, the M50xBT from Audio-Technica is a really great option for those looking for a good sounding pair of wireless headphones that are built to last. These things are built just like the M50X, the classic. And so as a result, you really get a great headphone that has that convenience of the Bluetooth. They both have very similar sounds, and so if you like the M50X, you'll like these ones. There will be some slight differences, but honestly, I really wonder if I would have noticed at all if I didn't listen side by side. The general shape of things comes across in a very similar way with these headphones. Thank you all so much for watching. If you thought this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. All right, I will see you next time. Bye.